Other than musicals, what is my favourite movie genre? Well, I like the gothic type movies and the whimsical and the gothic fantasy. Basically, I like Tim Burton movies. Hello, and welcome to another bookish ramble. And today I want to talk about the magic of Tim Burton movies. Tim Burton is a great director who makes some great movies. One of the most popular ones you would know of would be The Nightmare Before Christmas, Edward Scissorhands, I hope you know Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice, Corpse Bride, the Alice in Wonderland movies that came out sometime in the past 10 years or so. Just those sorts of movies. And of course the Wednesday TV series that came out recently that I don't think I reviewed and probably should have, but it would be very biased because I love Wednesday Addams. But yeah, we're going to talk about Tim Burton movies and what makes them so magical and beautiful. So to start off with, Tim Burton movies are usually some sort of gothic, dark, fantastical movie. And I haven't watched an awful lot of them. Could probably count on two hands how many I've watched. I could probably bring the DVDs in, but it's like 1 a.m. and I don't want to wake anyone up. But one of the main features of a Tim Burton movie is it has a dark tone to it and is usually more of a washed out colour. And through watching the Tim Burton movies you learn to associate the washed out dark tone to good and a brightly coloured tone to bad. This is most well seen in Edward Scissorhands. Edward himself is a pretty monochromatic person. Got his pale skin and his dark hair, and his defining feature? His scissor hands. Yes, this is a pop figure. I don't have any reference of Edward right now, but you will see a pop figure. So Edward Scissorhands is a good movie to start off with for an example, because where he lives, this big castle at the top of a hill on the edge of the road from Suburbia, I believe it was called, is all dark and shadowy and almost grayscale. And at first it fills you with the sense of dread and fear. And then you get hit with the sudden and jarring visual of Suburbia, which is bright pastels and colours, and immediately you're hit with this contrast of whether something's going to happen. And throughout the story of Edward Scissorhands, it's about the Avon lady, I can't remember her name, who goes to Edward's castle trying to get a sale and ends up bringing Edward home because of his scars, because his hands are scissors, he touches his face, he cuts his face. As he lives with her, things start looking good in Suburbia with him. He cuts people's hair, he cuts their dog's fur, he trims hedges, he can do all that cool things, and then he gets tricked into breaking into a house, and then he gets caught by the police, and then people start thinking he's not very good. And you start to see that the residents of Suburbia are quite fickle and shallow. They saw Edward as a threat at first, realized he was okay, liked him, but as soon as he got arrested for breaking into a house, no questions asked of him, they decided he was bad. And throughout the time, over time, Edward gets into a fight with this guy over Winona Ryder's character, who is his romantic interest at the time, and ends up accidentally cutting her hand. And it's not that deep a wound, but everyone gets really angry with him because, oh no, you've hurt her. And they start to chase Edward. And then he trips over her brother, and he starts getting covered in cuts. And so they really thought he was bad. They thought he was trying to kill the brother. end up chasing him back to his castle, where Winona Ryder's character follows him in, takes a spare hand, pretends that he's dead. But through this, you can see and start to associate the pastel colours are not good. The pastel colours are bad, and the dark colour is good and safe. And it happens a lot in Tim Burton movies. You've got the dark colours are good and the bright colours are bad. Same thing happens with Nightmare Before Christmas. The Halloween Town is dark and spooky. And then you go up to Christmas Town and it's bright and colourful. But they don't really like the presents that Jack Skellington gives them. Which I guess is understandable, because I mean, like, I wouldn't really want a zombie duck toy to come into my Christmas stocking. Sometimes in these movies as well, when in other movies this concept of dark being good and bright being bad is flipped around, but it's not like completely opposite. For example, my favourite movie is Corpse Bride, which is the story of this guy, Victor, who was supposed to marry this girl, Victoria. It was an arranged marriage, but he messes up the vows in the wedding practice. So he goes into the forest to practice and ends up putting the ring on what he thought was a tree. Turns out to be the bony hand of Emily, who takes him down into the underworld to live out their afterlives because he's now married to her. Victor's world up top it's not grayscale and it's not super brightly coloured, nor is it really, really dark and dreary. It is unsaturated. All the colours are shades of grey and pale brown and things like that. And then once you get into the underworld, it's high contrast, bright colours, but still has the dark tone to it. So you still kind of follow the same theory, except you kind of end up thinking both worlds aren't good. Because, and spoilers if you haven't seen Corpse Bride, which I watch every Halloween, in the upper world, they want Victor to marry Victoria. And he's not supposed to talk to Victoria alone until they're married. And they're mostly marrying Victor off for Victoria's family's money, which they don't really have. They were going to marry Victor for money anyway. But also in the underworld, Victor has to die in order to stay married to Emily. So, kind of has something bad happen in both, but the best songs happen in the underworld. So like, you get that same vibe of up top is bad and down below is good and better, because it's happier. So that sort of theme happens throughout most Tim Burton movies. You also have the grim, dark theme, and that carries on even through some movies that aren't directed by Tim Burton. You have like Addams Family, the 1990s version, and the animated one that came out a few years ago. That one though, I had the biggest Tim Burton type whiplash coming from when we went to see that Addams Family in the cinemas. So if you haven't seen it, the setup is almost exactly like Edward Scissorhands. The Addamses live in their little house, well, it's not little, it's a big house, in their house at the top of a hill at the edge of a town that is all pastel coloured. Sound familiar? When I watched it the first time, I saw the Addams' house and I was really impressed. It was really cool, it looked really great. It was all dark and gloomy and exactly how the Addams family house would look like. But then the camera moved into the town and I sat there and I went, this is exactly like Edward Scissorhands. I feel concerned because the town is pastel coloured and pastel means bad. No, I'm pretty sure that Addams Family was not directed by Tim Burton, but it had the vibes. And it was interesting that I made that connection. Despite it not being an Edward Scissorhands movie, it was Addams Family, but I had that connection. Because a lot of these grim movies follow that theory. I'm going to double check that Addams Family is not a Tim Burton movie, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Yep, the 90s ones are not... What is that? What the... There's an Addams Family reunion? Daryl Hannah? I've never seen this one. Where can I watch it? Someone tell me where I can watch Addams Family Reunion. Sounds amazing. It's not the one I was looking for. And this will probably be cut out, so... Yeah, so a lot of these Addams Family movies follow the idea that the Tim Burton movies do, which is that the bright colours are bad and the dark colours are good, despite not being directed by Tim Burton. So that's interesting. Just an interesting little tangent to go on. This is a ramble video after all. But like... it is interesting. And you've got, as well with Tim Burton movies, they delve deeper into a human psyche, and they're sort of more kind of like psychological, I guess you could say. They're not happy, cheerful, bubbly movies. They always go into more of the darker side. The not so much horror thrillers, like Sleepy Hollow was kind of a thriller, but they go into more of like the moralistic sort of, maybe people you meet in creepy houses should stay in the creepy house because that's where they're more comfortable. Especially if they tell you that their dad never woke up. Or things like, maybe let people choose who they want to marry, and also learn more about your prospective spouses before marrying them, and things like that. Just like, it gives you almost more of a moralistic thing, as well as just giving you a darker tone. Beetlejuice was about dead people, for example. Dead people who became ghosts who couldn't move on, and ended up haunting the house, you know? So, it's interesting, and mystic, I guess you could say. Tim Burton movies have a mysticism to them, and something whimsical and twisted. Whimsical being like Alice in Wonderland and Alice to the Looking Glass, which delved closer into the original Alice in Wonderland text than your happy, cheerful, original Disney animated Alice in Wonderland. We got to see the Jabberwocky, for example. Jabberwocky wasn't in any adaptation of Alice in Wonderland I ever learned about. And then I read the book and I realised the Jabberwocky is a thing. That Jabberwocky poem we studied in grade 3 was actually real. It was from Alice in Wonderland, or Alice Through the Looking Glass, and I never realised that. But the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland gave you more of a look into that, and it allowed people to be more free with the way their minds work. Sometimes this dark, twisted way that someone's mind would work, that most people would frown upon, is celebrated with a Tim Burton movie. It allows you to set your twisted mind free and be weird and things. And that is the greatest part of a Tim Burton movie. It's, as well as some of them having great music, it also lets you be you and embrace the weird, some people would say questionable part of your mind. And that's a good thing. Like, some people may say that you're crazy and that it's weird, but what Tim Burton movies have shown me is you can go really far with your twisted mind. Tim Burton himself, the movies he creates, some people would say are weird and twisted and creepy. And I use twisted in the sort of way of like, describing your sort of thoughts and images and stuff that kind of make some people recoil and other people look forward. It's not so much like a psychosis thing or a psychotic thing, it's more of a like a weirdness thing. The weird and enthralling is what I'm defining when I say twisted. So Tim Burton movies allow you to feel that way and embrace that, and that's amazing. That's awesome. That's fun. There's a movie I will review at some point that also follows in on that, but to a more darker degree than Tim Burton movies do. But yeah, it's just, Tim Burton movies are amazing, and I like them, and I think there's a couple more I want to get and watch. I just need to find them and then watch them, and yeah, but like, Tim Burton movies are amazing, and if you haven't seen one, please go and see one, be it Nightmare Before Christmas or Corpse Bride or something. They're good movies to start you off with. Just like, it's good. For a really dark movie, I would suggest like Sweeney Todd. That one's quite dark, literally killing people and putting them into pies, but good music. We could do like Sleepy Hollow, so witches, headless horsemen, all that stuff, creepy, magic-y, weird stuff. Or just for like your base level with like Vincent Price and Johnny Depp. Edward Scissorhands. Edward Scissorhands is good. Very good. I like to watch that one every Christmas. It's just so good, and it's got some great lines in it that I'm not going to tell you here because they would be kind of spoilers. But like, yeah, if you're looking for any baseline Tim Burton movies to start with, definitely Corpse Bride, Nightmare Before Christmas, Edward Scissorhands, or Beetlejuice. Just any of those 4. Go and watch them, and then you'll get into the obsession with Tim Burton, because they're good movies. They're so good. Don't watch the Planet of the Apes one though, because I didn't really like that one. If you want a good Planet of the Apes movie, by all means go back to the originals. They were good. They're 5 movies, they're kind of dated by now, but they were good. They are so good. Don't watch the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. I'm sorry if any of you do like the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. I just don't. But yeah, there's definitely other Tim Burton movies I like. You can watch the Alice in Wonderland one. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is also really good. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, though, is a little spooky, so warning for that one. But I mean, most Tim Burton movies are kind of spooky in a way, but not to the extent that Miss Peregrine is. I've only watched that one twice, and it was not the greatest. I've still got it on DVD, but I don't watch it very often because I always forget about the creepy bit. But yeah, Tim Burton movies, magical, whimsical, a little bit twisted, a little bit like grim dark, very good. And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little ramble. I'm wearing lipstick today. Look at that. No, this is not the same day as the anniversary musicals video. Not at all, I promise. But yeah, if you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. I'm getting really tired, so I shall say goodnight. I will see you next week, hopefully with that sewing alterations video. I am like 4 weeks ahead. I should have enough time to film that sewing video. See you next week. Bye.